Announcement, and that is I will again be hosting the readathon Cloak and Dagger Christmas. It is a mystery readathon running throughout the course of December, and I just think that December is a perfect time to read mysteries. They're so easy to dip in and out of, very plot driven, but with such a wide range of them, some being literary, some being cozy, some are historical, some are hard boiled, and I think there's something there for everyone, and December is just such a marvelous time to be reading them. And I have a quote from mystery author Martin Edwards about reading mysteries at Christmas. It says, "Christmas may be when we dream of peace on earth and entertain feelings of goodwill to all men and women, but there are limits. It is a mysterious as well as magical time of year. Strange things can happen, and this helps to explain the hallowed tradition of telling ghost stories around the fireside as the year draws to a close. Christmas tales of crime and detection have a similar appeal. When television becomes tiresome and party games pall, the prospect of curling up with a good mystery is enticing and much better for the digestion than yet another helping of plum pudding." I hope you will join me, and I'm also very excited to announce that I am joined by 3 lovely co-hosts this year. These lovely ladies are fellow booktubers and mystery lovers, and so I think if you like my channel, you will really enjoy their content. And so the fellow hosts are Mel from Mel's Bookland Adventures, Kate from the novel Nomad, and Carolyn from Carolyn's Reading Rambles. So I will, of course, link their channels down below. They have announcement videos also coming out today, and I think it will be really cool to see the different recommendations that they have for the prompts that we have chosen. We are going sort of in the spirit of Gemma and Olive did for Nonfiction November and doing prompts as opposed to challenges and keeping it very vague. And the prompts are only there if you want to do them. They're there to be fun and they are just totally optional. But if you are interested in the prompts, I will tell you about them and then give some suggestions. So we have 4 prompts and we're doing opposites paired. The 4 prompts are sugar and spice, old and new, home and travel, and summer and winter. So these are very open to interpretation, and I'm really looking forward to seeing whoever participates and the ways they interpret the challenges. First, for sugar and spice, we were basically thinking sugar would be cozy and spice would be more hard-boiled, more literary, maybe even like a crime procedural, forensic type thing. So kind of whichever in those that interest you, you could pick one end of the spectrum. Or if you could think of a different way to interpret it, of course, go ahead and very much do so. The next is old and new. So a couple different ways this could be interpreted. It could be old could be a mystery classic, an Agatha Christie or a Dorothy Sayers, or it could be a book that you've owned for a while, a mystery that you've had and you've just really been meaning to get to. Or it could be an old sleuth like Miss Marple and Miss Silver. Or it could be a book that is more recently written but set a long time ago and like a historical mystery. And then with new, you could use a young sleuth like Flavia de Luce or the Murder Most Unladylike series by Robin Stevens. Or it could be a brand new mystery that's just out or a mystery that you just bought. So really open to interpretation, and I'm looking forward to seeing how people pick those. And then the next set of prompts is home and travel. So I think one thing that mystery lovers do adore in books are all the cozy domestic details. And I think the setting really is a big part of the story in mysteries. So whether it's the coziness of home or our sleuth and cast are traveling the world, I just think it's a really great way to set up a mystery. And I love getting little travel details or details about home, the tea kettle boiling and the different smells in the places that they are, and just the buildings, the architecture, the landscape, all of it. So I do enjoy reading both kinds of mysteries where they're based at home or they're traveling. And the next one is, and the final one is summer and winter. So this was primarily thought of by Kate from the novel Nomad, because where Kate is, it will be summer during the month of December. So I thought it was fun in case there weren't any, more wintry mysteries, you could pick out a summery one. And I think, it's just really going to be fun to see what everyone picks. So I will give you my recommendations for the different prompts. So the first is sugar and spice. So on the sugar side of things, I would like to recommend a Mary Stewart. It will come as no surprise to those of you who have been subscribed to me this year, and I have been reading through Mary Stewart's bibliography with a group of lovely ladies, and I have been absolutely loving it. And one of my most favorites was Thornyhold. This is by far Mary Stewart's most lighthearted book. And it takes place in a really small little town. And our protagonist is Gilly Ramsey. And she moves into an old house that she has inherited. And the first sentence I love. It just sets the stage. It says, "I suppose that my mother could have been a witch if she had chosen to." So you know it's going to be good if it involves witches. But very lighthearted and fun, but still with a mystery in there. And I think for those of you who like cozies, you will definitely enjoy this. And it's cool because it's an older book, so it has stood the test of time. And next on the cozy end is one of my absolute favorite series. I just finished the 4th in the series as a buddy read with Kate from the novel Nomad, and that is the Her Royal Spyness series by Rhys Bowen. This series is about Lady Victoria Georgiana Charlotte Eugenie, but her friends all call her Georgie, and her family is of rank, and she is 32nd in line to the throne, but they are really broke. They're terribly broke, and Georgie was living in the family's manor house in Scotland with her brother Binky and his wife Fig, but Fig made it very clear that Georgie was basically a burden and just another mouth to feed. So Georgie decides to go to London and try to find just different ways to have extra income coming in. And it's just a very fun series with a bunch of recurring characters and just very lively and dynamic, and I love it. So then on the spice end, I have a couple literary mystery favorites to recommend to you. And the first is Death in Holy Orders by P.D. James. P.D. James just is a very reputable mystery writer. She passed away a couple years ago, and this is from her series where Adam Dalgleish is the sleuth. I think this is a series where it's okay to dip in and out. It's not terribly sequential. There's not a major overarching plot between the different novels. So this is later in the series, but I think it's okay to hop in there. And this takes place at an all-boys Anglican boarding school on the coast of East Anglia. And it's very atmospheric in the setting. And the Archbishop is visiting the school and is found murdered in the chapel. So Adam Dalgleish has got to figure out. And there are many suspicious people in this cast of characters, lots of people with motive. And I was guessing until the very end. It's pristinely written, so eloquent. I think people who love literary fiction could really enjoy P.D. James mysteries. Then I could not go a whole mystery video and not recommend a Ruth Rendell. So I want to recommend one of my favorite in her Inspector Wexford series, and that is Kissing the Gunner's Daughter. This is a book that is a very chilling crime. There is, I think it's called Tancred House. Yes, Tancred House. It's a manor house in the woods. And there is a family there, the family who live in the house, and they're having dinner, and someone comes in and just shoots the whole family. And the granddaughter crawls. She has been shot as well, but she crawls to the telephone and calls and says, "They've shot my family. They've shot me. Come help us, save me." And she lives through it. And so she's a very key witness in the case. And Inspector Wexford kind of has to make heads or tails of the different details, and it's just a very puzzling case. So a really good one, very memorable. Like I said, one of my absolute favorite in the series. Then moving on to the old and new prompt, a couple different interpretations for this. And the first recommendation for the old prompt is Strong Poison by Dorothy Sayers. This is one of my absolute favorite mysteries, favorite books, hands down. And this is in the Lord Peter Wimsey series by Dorothy Sayers. So there's two parts sort of to the Lord Peter Wimsey series. There's the earlier part of the series, and then there's a very significant character, Harriet Vane, who is a mystery writer, and in this book gets put on trial for murder. An old flame of hers is found murdered, and so she is, of course, the prime suspect. And Lord Peter Wimsey takes it upon himself to defend Harriet Vane and gets to know her in the process. This mystery has a little bit of everything. Dorothy Sayers was very trained in the classics, so there's lots of really cool culture and different classical literature and things that are referenced in it. Lots of really fun, quippy quotes, and it's got a really interesting, compelling crime. And like I said, it's just a little bit of everything, and it just has such a spirit of fun about it. So I highly recommend Strong Poison, and I'm really looking forward to continuing on with the Peter Wimsey and Harriet Vane books. The next one that I want to recommend is an absolute favorite historical mystery series of mine, and that is Maisie Dobbs by Jacqueline Winspear. This is the very first book in the series, and this starts out, you get a history of Maisie. You see her childhood, and then her time spent as a World War I nurse, and also her time prior to that, kind of training herself when she's about to go to college, and then World War I breaks out. So she's a very interesting character who I think we get really substantial character development for a mystery series as it goes on. I'm 9 books into the series and loving it even more with each one. So I will say this is just go in prepared. It's not a huge overarching plot. It's more like 2 stories. There's a present day mystery and a mystery from the past, or, you know, Maisie's past. But I think it's highly, just a highly compelling series, and I absolutely love it. And I just can't wait to continue reading, but I don't want to run out of books at the same time. I'm very conflicted. So then the new part of the prompt, the Mitford Murders by Jessica Fellowes. This is a new series, and it features the Mitford sisters. So it was really neat, you know, having read Nancy Mitford's The Pursuit of Love, to read a book where she is a main character. And basically you get to know the Mitford family through the eyes of Louisa, who is our main character, and she comes to work as a nursery maid there. As when this starts, Nancy is almost 18, and so then all her younger siblings are being taken care of. And it's a really interesting plot that really slowly unfolds, and as it was unfolding, I was kind of trying to make heads or tails of who I thought had done the crime. And it starts out where Florence Nightingale has been murdered on a train. And so it's really interesting and neat to see the way Jessica Fellowes kind of weaves all the plot lines together. And it was just a really, I really enjoyed it. I think if you like historical mysteries, you'll enjoy it. And the audiobook was excellent. So the second one in the series did come out, but as far as the books that I go, that a book that only came out a year ago is very new for me. So that's why I'm keeping it on the new list. And then another one that is newer, came out last year, is, or I don't know if it came out last year, but it's a newer mystery, so I'm recommending it, is The Magpie Murders. This is by Anthony Horowitz, and it is a very special mystery. It's very unique in its delivery because it starts out, we're learning about this mystery author who is currently writing a mystery and goes missing. And so you're kind of figuring out, why is he missing? Where did he go? And then at the same time, it starts diving into the mystery that he was currently writing. And so you're getting 2 kind of full-length mysteries. It's a really neat premise. And I was a little bit skeptical going in, but Anthony Horowitz just told it so well, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. Then on the home and travel, for the home and travel prompts, I want to recommend on the home side, Agatha, Raisin, and the Quiche of Death. So this is the coziest of the cozy series by MC Beaton, and it features Agatha Raisin, who is a sardonic, kind of in-your-face lady who has recently retired and decided she wanted to move to the Cotswolds. Well, when she moves to the Cotswolds, she realized just how quiet it is in this little sleepy town. And she decides she's very bored and not sure if she wants to stay there anymore until there is a baking contest. And the store-bought quiche that Agatha enters into the baking contest is poisoned, and one of the judges dies. So Agatha, of course, takes it upon herself to investigate the case. So if you want very fun, lighthearted, each mystery is only around 200 pages. This is a very fun one with lots of cozy details in there. Then A Beautiful Blue Death by Charles Finch. And this is the First in the Charles Lennox Mysteries, it is a Victorian series, so it's really neat to see all of the Victorian details in this. And Charles Lennox is a man about town. He is a gentleman, and so he can kind of use his rank in society to get to talk to more people than he might be able to otherwise if he was lower down in society. It's a really neat series and with really compelling crimes, and I highly recommend it. On the travel end of things, the first series I immediately thought of, when we said we were going to do a travel prompt, was the Amelia Peabody series by Elizabeth Peters. The first in the series is The Crocodile on the Sandbank. And in this one, you get to see Amelia traveling through Egypt as she is an Egyptologist and ends up meeting her future husband, Emerson. They are such a dynamic duo, and their personalities really clash at first. I guess opposites attract, is the phrase that applies to them. But it's really neat to see their relationship unfold in this book, but then also have a really interesting crime involving Egyptian artifacts and black market items being sold. And it's just a really great series. And then on a different note with travel, I was thinking maybe time travel. So I want to recommend Mariana by Susanna Kearsley. Bree Hill kept talking up Susanna Kearsley, and I'm so glad I finally tried her. This is the second one that I've read, and this is very atmospheric and gothic feeling. Our main character, Julia, has always admired this 16th century farmhouse called Greyweather. She remembers it. She passed by it one time, and she sees it's for sale, and she buys it, and ends up well, I don't want to give away too much. Okay, yeah, I was figuring out how much I wanted to say. But there she learns about Mariana, who is a woman who used to live in the house 300 years ago. And she knows certain events are about to take place. Certain things are going to happen. So I think that's the mystery of it. And she needs to figure out kind of what happened to Mariana. And it's just a really highly readable book, but it's fun because it's chunky, but her writing, I just flew through it, but it was a really good story to kind of sink my teeth into. I really recommend Mariana. It's a great one for winter, I would say. And then lastly, summer and winter. Speaking of seasons. So on the summer end of things, a book that I heard about from Kate of the Novel Nomad was The Dry by Jane Harper. This is an Australian crime book, and it is set during a drought in this really small town. And our main character, Will, has left the town. He's been gone for years, but he comes back when his best friend and his wife and their daughter were brutally murdered. And the only member of the house left is the son. And so he's kind of the main witness of this crime, and Will comes back to kind of investigate what happened to his best friend and what went wrong. And in this sleepy little town, there are a lot more secrets than you would think at first. So Will has to kind of figure out things, make heads or tails of it. It's a really intense kind of thriller type crime, but it's so good and so compelling. I could not stop reading. So I highly recommend it. And then a more old-fashioned vintage one is the Grantchester Mysteries, Sidney Chambers and The Shadow of Death. This is a really neat setup for a mystery in that it's 5 little novella mysteries in one book. But there is overarching plot happening with Sidney and other members of the cast at the same time. So it's a really fun type of mystery because you feel like you're really making progress as you're steadily going through it. But the Grantchester Mysteries, in case you don't know, are set in the small town of Grantchester, and our main character, Sidney Chambers, is a vicar, but he becomes really good friends with Geordie, who's one of the police inspectors, and so kind of ends up assisting him with investigating different crimes. It's neat to see their relationship, but this is a really great, great book, and I think better than the TV series. And I really want to move on and read the second one in the series, and I highly recommend this. So yeah, it takes place in the summertime, and Sidney rides his bike everywhere, and there's picnics by the river, so it definitely feels like a summery book. Then on the winter end, I do have 2 festive recommendations for you. And the first is An English Murder by Cyril Hare. So this is our classic, estate house murder, and all of these guests are assembled at Christmas time at, what's the name of the manor? Warbeck Hall. And so who can be responsible? The scorned young love, the Lord's passed-over cousin, the social climbing politician's wife, the Czech history professor, the obsequious butler. And perhaps the real question is, can any of them survive long enough to tell the tale? So it's just really fun. All of these people gathered for Christmas and a murder happens. And really satisfying in such a short mystery. It was around 200 pages. So I was really impressed with how much Cyril Hare was able to do in such a little amount of time. And then a really neat collection is the Mistletoe Murder and Other Stories by P.D. James. This is a collection of, is it 5 stories? It's only 4 stories. So it's 4 stories, but I think mysteries are especially conducive to short stories. You're able to have a really kind of satisfying, gripping story in a short amount of time. And the Mistletoe Murder was my favorite out of the collection. It was by far the most Christmassy, so I would maybe save that for last, but I definitely enjoyed all of these. And it was just a nice little kind of mysterious Christmas nugget. And I just think really enjoyable and compelling at the same time. So please let me know if you will be joining us for Cloak and Dagger Christmas. I am planning on a couple special mystery related videos, and I will be posting my TBR soon. And I can't wait just to hear what everyone is going to be reading. And if you are going to be talking about it on social media, don't forget to use the hashtag Cloak and Dagger Christmas. And I will be posting a lot on my Instagram, my Bookstagram. No compliments to your mother. And I hope that you will follow the other ladies. And I just can't wait for all of the mysterious and Christmassy fun.